in a not shocking decision that happened today, the Fed cut rates a 1/4 point. That is over 2% now since the peak. I don't remember exactly the number, but we're at a rate between 3.5 and 3.75. But here's what I liked that was interesting. 6 members of the Fed, let me pull this up a little bit higher. 6 members of the Fed would have preferred not to cut rates on Wednesday. Guys, I'm in that camp. In fact, I'm probably in the camp of raising rates. Now, do I have a bias there? Maybe. I will tell you, my bias actually is towards higher inflation. I've got a lot of real estate. I got 1,000 apartments, a bunch of single family homes that I own. Inflation helps me a ton. It's going to make me a lot more money. I have a bias towards inflation. I do not think that cutting rates is the right move. I think it's just a bullying policy by Trump. And looking into next year, 7 believe no cuts are needed. 3 think the central bank is now below the level needed on its benchmark rate policy. 4 members see 1 cut, 4 see 2 cuts, 2 see 3 cuts, 1 sees 4 cuts, and 1 sees 6 cuts. 6 cuts? What is going on here? 6 cuts, that's another 1.5%. We're talking about 2% interest rates on the Fed fund policy. I mean, 2%? Guys, I don't know how this even makes sense. Remember, we cut rates. And by the way, we have some massive recession. I can understand that. But guys, talking about economic policy, the point of having surpluses, which we haven't had, we only had for 2 years in the last 40 years, and the only time we had them was in the late 90s when the economic growth was far greater than anybody expected, so tax receipts were a lot greater, et cetera. But we should have surpluses during good times to accumulate that money, and during recessions to give it to people to support them during those times. But we don't do that. What we do is we spend like crazy, we have deficits, and then when we have bad times, we increase our deficits. Listen, we are fine. Things are going to be okay until some point when it's not. When is that? Who has any idea? We are printing money like crazy. We have tons of debt. And whenever we take on debt, it's sacrificing for the future. Remember, these Fed chairmen and Fed governors, they're not any more intelligent than a decent person who understands business and economics. So when we look at these people and say, hey, these guys know what's going on, do they see a lot of data? They see a lot of data. But I find it interesting that we haven't cut through on the inflation concerns that we had all along. So if we have inflation concerns and we cut rates, that's more inflationary. Now, I saw somebody made a comment and said, well, what about Japan? They cut rates. Do you know how terribly stagnant Japan's economy is? And has been for a long time. So if your economy sucks and you're cutting rates, it might keep your economy afloat. I'm not saying Japan's economy sucks. I shouldn't have said that. But what I'm saying is they have major issues in their economy and they have a supply problem of people. They've got an aging population. They got a lot of issues where low rates are necessary. But ironically, have you seen where rates have gone in Japan lately? They have climbed up. Now, we are still the reserve currency. We're still the greatest country in the world in terms of economically and for entrepreneurs. I am not denying that at all. But at some point, we have to sit there and say, what's a very rational statement that gets abused, used and abused, and becomes something that becomes, oh shit, what are we doing here? We have a growing economy. Unemployment's still low. It's creeping up, but it's still very low. I was just talking upstairs with my manager of our real estate, and we every single time we talk about employees, we joke and say, remember we used to be able to get really great employees for $13, $14, $15 an hour. And now it's got to start with a 2. And the question is, how high into the 2s do you go? I'm okay with that. Again, I am fine with all that, but it is a sticker shock to people. I can afford that. The average person, when inflation hits and all of a sudden their eggs, their milk, their bacon, everything they need to do to feed their family is 30, 40, 50% higher very quickly, that's a different story. It doesn't affect guys like me. It probably doesn't affect people like you, but it affects everyday working people. And I'm not saying that's the reason to worry about it, but we didn't hit the inflation goals that Chairman Powell had said originally were part of the plan, a 2% inflation goal, core inflation, excluding food and energy because of how volatile those are. So let's see what else is going on here. You think Powell has a t-shirt there that says fuck Trump? I don't know, maybe. Inflation is seen falling to got a chuckle out of Tim on that one. Inflation is seen falling to 2.5% in 2026, compared with 2.6% previously projected, and a level of 3% to end 2025. GDP is seen rising 2.3% next year versus 1.8%. Now, is this real GDP or is this nominal? I assume this is real GDP It's got to be real, because if it was nominal, it would be negative real GDP growth, because nominal is including inflation, real GDP is after inflation. Guys, I don't see why that's bad for such a mature economy. I don't think we should sit there and expect to have 4 or 5% real GDP growth for extended periods of time. We're a very mature economy. We have very well-paid people in this country. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. I will talk about that till I'm blue in the face. Now, I was always wondering about this whole... Listen, I voted for Trump. So for those of you who out there who are going to be blasting me for criticizing Trump, just pump the brakes a little bit. Quit your crying. Just don't get your panties up in a bunch. Hear me out here. Is it the worst thing in the world to think that Trump purposely tried to avoid releasing inflation numbers? I don't think it's the biggest stretch in the world. What do you think, Tim? Yeah, he's shaking his head no. Again, I think he's hilarious. I love the guy. I think he's absolutely funny. Policies, I go back and forth on his policies. And if you're the kind of person who just thinks everything he does is awesome, then you probably don't understand all of his positions. He is funny, but I'm looking at going, I could see Trump saying, yeah, you're not releasing that information. But they're saying it's because of the government shutdown and things like that, which very well, by the way, seems a reasonable statement. I just don't know if it's true or not. A stronger than expected, albeit stale, September jobs report showed payroll growth bounced back that month with 119,000 jobs added, compared with a loss of 4,000 for August. Again, it's 1 month, but so was August. These things go up and down, but it's not like the economy is struggling here. It's not like we need to pump money into the economy, keep rates low to get people to borrow, blah, 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 blah. Guys, I have a lot of real estate. I bought several houses here on Airbnb, and I paid high interest rates. I have a bias towards wanting lower rates from that standpoint, but I still look at it and go, if you want lower rates, what's the reason? Just so you can borrow at cheaper prices? Okay, fine. From an investment standpoint, you shouldn't want that, because it brings dumb money in that's just chasing hype and saying, well, I have nothing better to invest in. I might as well do this. It just doesn't make sense to me. This is for the January 28th, 2026 meeting. Right now, it is 78% chance of keeping rates the same. Now, let's see. A month ago, it was 53%. A week ago, 65%. A day ago, 70%. Now it's 78%. These things move fast, guys. There is a pretty much a quarter across the board chance of another quarter rate drop. Guys, between now and January 28th, you know how many times that thing's going to change? It's going to change 1 billion times. Don't try to guess. Don't try to decide, should I invest in stocks right now? Who cares? Right now, today, by the way, ironically though, the market is surging. The NASDAQ was negative 0.3 before the announcement, I think. Now it's up 0.45. And for those of you who still believe in efficient market theory, which hopefully the people who watch our channel do not, that's an increase of 0.75 because the Fed said we're going to cut rates. Remember, everybody thought the market was going to crash when rates went up. And they did have a bear market that year, and then all-time highs, right back at it. If you still own Bitcoin and consider it a hedge on inflation, I ask one question. How stupid are you? I think I'm going to leave it at that. Guys, there's not much else to say. Like, Fed Chairman Powell is a sitting duck. He's a lame duck right now. I heard that Trump hasn't officially named the new person, but it's pretty much all likely. So guys, enjoy. This is the way it works. Do not worry about the stuff. If you dollar cost average and you buy good companies at great prices, if prices go lower, you buy more. That's the name of the game. Keep it simple, stupid. Thank you for your time.